54 minutes after 7 here on the AM show now. Tewu members say they will not show up at tertiary institutions to provide support services due to failure of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to deliver on the promise to bridge the gap between salaries of senior and junior staff of public universities. Are they on a strike action? We've been joined via phone now by Peter K. Lumo, who is the Tewu chairman. Subjects. Good morning to you, Mr. Lumo. Thanks for your time.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. So are you on strike?
Are we on strike?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are meeting this morning, all the public universities. The leadership met last Friday. So all the campuses are holding general meetings this morning to report back to the rank and file the decisions that were taken on Friday.
So I take it that you haven't called a strike action yet?
We have declared a strike, but today on our various campuses we will report to our membership.
So
and then we'll advise them what to do.
Mr. Lumo, how did you get to this point?
How did we get to this point?
Yes, sir.
It's a long story. This problem started about 3 years ago. We moved one step forward. We moved 2 steps forward. You go back to fair wages, it's a different ballgame. If you quite remember, in September 2013, Tewu even went on strike on this same problem. Chancellors intervened and said we should call off the strike so that the problem can be resolved by negotiation. Since then, there have been committees working on this matter. The last committee to be formed was May last year, when VCG, led by the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Tewu, and Fair Wages met in the State Enterprise Commission's office, where the Fair Wages office. We raised issues. Tewu were making some demand. Fair Wages said we won't agree with this, we won't agree to this. But we can look at the bridging of the gap between the junior and the senior staff, which has been one of the outstanding issues. So at this meeting, we all agreed. Fair Wages said, Vice Chancellors Ghana, Human Resource Directors, and Tewu should meet and make some proposals for us to have a look at. That proposal was submitted to Fair Wages around June. Nothing was said for Fair Wages. In November, Vice Chancellors to Fair Wages to remind them about Tewu's outstanding issues. That Fair Wages did not even acknowledge that letter. So come December 10th last year, Tewu held a press conference and said, if by the close of the year these issues are not resolved, no one should blame Tewu membership. And as I speak to you, nobody had called Tewu to any table to discuss the issues. This year, 7th of January, Vice Chancellor Ghana wrote back again to Fair Wages about the same Tewu outstanding things and the information that gathering that there seems to be some pressure. As we speak, I believe again, Fair Wages have not acknowledged that letter. So when we met on Friday, we said, look, the pressure coming from our rank and file is just too much. So we took a decision that we will lay down our tools from today.
Mr. Lumo, how involved has the Ministry of Education been with your negotiations with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission? Yes.
Medical education, I don't think I play any serious role. That's always been between us and Fair Wages. And maybe once in a while, no labor issues. I do call it the Ministry of Employment once in a while comes in. But it has always been between the Vice Chancellors, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And honestly speaking, some of us have been around this thing for some time. The current Minister for Education was by then the Vice Chancellor of Tewu University when we went on this single spine thing. And I can remember when they were offloading Tewu, we raised issues. But the understanding at that time was that let's be offloaded. When there are problems, we look at them. And here we are, since then.
So, Mr. Lumo, the difference between the junior staff and the senior staff, how bad is that when you say there's a salary difference? Please help us to appreciate that.
So You're asking me how wild
is the difference, yes.
If I'm right, it's about 3 or 4 steps. The gap between the last grade of the junior staff and the senior staff on the single spine now is about 3 or 4 steps.
So what do you...
And in fact, the committee that the Fair Wages Act look at that thing, which is made up of human resource directors of the university. We look at those issues, and they've made some nice proposals how it can be resolved. See? So please, we are not interested in calling strike. We want the problem to be resolved. Then everybody has peace to work and what have you and so on.
So is it a matter of you either do it my way or we strike? Is that where we are now?
That is not it.
So
if it is do it my way, they will have done it long ago. Some decisions were made. Fair Wages give clear signal what must be done. Human resource directors, VCG, Tewu, go and do this. Bring it. Let's have a look at it. We have done that. It's brought to you since June. You won't call for us to look at what is there. So who is to be blamed?
But Mr. Lumo, the university is on vacation currently. So if you say your members are on strike, what would we not see them do on campus, really?
What? Again, come again.
What would they not do on campus?
When people are on strike, it means that they are not working.
But the universities are on vacation.
They are on vacation. But there are people still on campus.
I guess, in other words, what I'm asking is, would this be effective?
I don't want to talk too much. You see, sometimes the impression is created that when unions are taking action, they target the action against students or what have you. It's not a case. Like I said, as of 10th December, we made a clear statement that by the close of the year, if nothing happens, don't blame us. And this is where we are. Whether students are there or not, that is a different matter. We want our problems to be resolved.
So, I think you mentioned this on Friday. Have you been called or has anybody come forward to get you to come back to the table to talk?
To the best of my knowledge, I've not got information from anywhere. But yesterday, my general secretary mentioned something, which I don't want to talk about now. We are going to the office. We'll see what will happen maybe by the close of the day.
Finally, Mr. Lumo, before I let you go, yeah. What will make you back down on this action that you've called now?
Done some work. The report is before Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. What is preventing Fair Wages from calling VCG, Tewu, even Fusa, also in the university? Call all of us. Let's sit down. Let's resolve these issues once and for all. And this whole question of people calling strike, people doing this, will stop. So let's get to the table and see what.
Mr. Lumo, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. I'm grateful. That's the Tewu chairman right there, Mr. Peter K. Lumo. Effectively, they've called a strike action, but interestingly, the university is on vacation. So we're wondering how that will be, their absence will be felt. But also joining us via Skype now is Mr. Austin Game, who is a labor consultant. Mr. Game, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Game.
Yes, good morning. I can hear you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I think I haven't said Happy New Year, so Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Hopefully, next time you will call me when there is no problem like this.
Yes, sir. So we have two things happening this week, really. Tewu's strike, some people would come as a surprise because we know that Labour is going on demonstration on Wednesday and on Thursday. This is an election year, but it's also the beginning of 2016, and already we're faced with these actions. First of all, what do you think?
Thank you. I think when we were not in election year, there was quite a number of strikes as well. So it doesn't really follow whether it is election year or 2016. That unfortunately would always have strikes on our hand if things are not handled carefully. So I think that is just the beginning of things. There could be a lot more. There may not be, hopefully.
But Mr. Gambe, I am beginning to think that the Labour Commission is becoming very useless, really, because nobody is referring anything to the Labour Commission anymore.
Well, it sounds strange, though. The Labour Commission have been set up by law to resolve labor-related issues, and they have resolved a number of them, albeit there are a number of them still hanging around, though. I think that they have not been brought into the fray because the parties in dispute have not found it prudent to report the matter officially to the National Labour Commission, maybe yet. Under normal circumstances, it's not only Labour Commission that resolves labor-related matters. Even on Sunday, I held meetings in my office here with people who wanted their problems resolved. So people do not necessarily go to Labour Commission only; they go to other people. And I heard Parliamentary Committee is inviting people for a similar meeting. But officially, the National Labour Commission is the place to go. But if you do not report to them, they sometimes may have to wait until you do that, which is most unfortunate, though.
You know, this issue of Tewu and Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has been going on for a while now. Why the issue has still not been resolved and Tewu will go on to take this action of a strike?
Again, it's most unfortunate. It's about interests. You know, I'm not too sure why, hearing Mr. Lumo, why the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission invited the directors of HR from the various heads of departments to come and help them resolve the matter in the way that is reporting it. They are interested parties, and they want maybe a way to freeing themselves from the problem. So I wouldn't approach it that way. I think the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, if they are not fully resourced by technical people, maybe they should find a way of dealing with that. Because if you take the scenario in other countries, you do not call those people who have interest directly in the matter. They may come and supply information. MCS, the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Services, they, just like our Labour Commission or Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, they will have to technically work on the things. Whoever is coming from the HR department to give information will give the information, but they will analyze it and independently form an opinion and come out with a decision that will be very helpful, or approach it from a mediation point of view. But this angle where the HR department of the investees will be the one supplying the information and submitting report as though that is the one that might be implemented, is a bit worrying, because I wouldn't approach it like that, you know. So I think that
but how have we done it previously? How has the engagement been?
Yeah, the department will independently, the department must handle it. They can inform the people to supply information because they hold some files. But as to because they are interested parties, and so it's dangerous, you know, now they are talking about 3 to 4 people's to one person and so forth and so on. If they have to fill the gap or narrow the gap, how will it be done? And you are asking the HR to supply you information, they will supply you. Now they are saying implement that which the HR has brought. It's difficult, that's why they're not implementing it. So it shouldn't have been so in the first place. The technical officers of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission should do the analysis themselves and ensure that what is going to be given as narrowing the gap can be accommodated, because it's money. If you don't have the money, you can't do it. You know, so it's most unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm thinking that in itself is a weakness from the angle of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
Well, not necessarily a weakness per se, but maybe they do not have the resources. I'm talking about the human resource capacity to be able to do it themselves. But it has to be done. This is about the state. It's not even about fair wages. We must employ people to handle these things or engage people outside the university. You know, the university, they are interested parties. That's the bottom line. And we've been doing this thing for some time now. And I can tell you, once people have interest in something and you ask them to do it, what do you want? What result do you want? They'll give you what you don't want. But they say it's a report, and so it must be implemented. But I think the options are quite there. They are there, open to them. I've told Mr. Lumo, whom you've just spoken to, you know, that they should not necessarily go on strike. They should find a way of sitting down with their employer, because this matter will be resolved. But you are on strike. Whether students are on holiday or not, the strike will be effective because there are lecturers who are still working. And if their refuse is not being collected, if their doors are not being opened for them, it can create an upset. And so it's very important that they open the place for work to be done.
But they've been talking about this for a while now. It hasn't been resolved. So how sure are we that if they should back down, this will be resolved?
Well, I heard this in last Friday, but granting that they've been talking about this since last year, I think it behoves on our officers to also take proactive measures by way of inviting the people and beginning the meetings. If you allow it to fester this way, it doesn't speak well of all of us. So I urge the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and if they are unable to handle it their way, they should go to the National Labour Commission. If they are not going to go to arbitration or facilitated process, they should go to arbitration and have it resolved once and for all. All they need is to get the right people to do it.
Mr. Gamet, let's talk about labor largely. There's a demonstration going to happen on Wednesday because labor wants utility tariffs to go down, and also the levy on petroleum taken off completely. These things that they're asking for, do you feel they are realistic?
It may not. The important thing is that they have laid something on the table, and there should be a way out. These are two simple matters that should not run to this level. It's too insignificant a matter. It's not a huge matter like blowing a hotel in Ouagadougou until we are all calling now on Skype and so forth and so on and talking about it. We shouldn't have come to this level. There are ways of resolving labor-related matters, and I can be of help to them, so I'm not going to be blaming anybody. Labor perhaps is not, and I think so too, they are not asking for total cancellation of the increases. I think I've heard them saying that they should come down a little bit. They have even come down to about 50 or so. If the employer thinks that they cannot abide by the 50 and they can live by, let's say, 52, 54, they should sit down and talk about it, generate various options, and be able to reach agreement. They can't be able to reach agreement because the gentlemen at Labour, they are not unaware that the consequences of leaving their job and demonstrating and so forth and so on would worsen the matter for all of us, because as you move out from the place of work, work stops, and therefore cash flow is seized, and therefore worsen their plight. It can inflate the situation. So they are not oblivious of these things. The employer should sit with them and talk it over. I think they should be able to find solution. If they cannot, they should look for independent people, if not Labour Commission, to be able to facilitate the process for them. People should not think that they can do everything on their own. In even other civilized organizations, nations like the United States of America, they have a complete FMCS based on which we set up the National Labour Commission, modeled around the FMCS, to be able to resolve these matters. And normally they use outside people. And so I think that Labour have the capacity though, the employers have the capacity though, our government, and we have already created under the law a National Tripartite Commission 13, they should go under that function to go and discuss the importance of, national economic matters or social matters. The law is there to back them. I think they have the capacity to do it.
But how effective will Wednesday's action be from where you sit?
Oh, it can be very effective. It can be very hurting. I say so because any 1 minute stoppage of work means loss of money, means a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs in future. And so labor is not oblivious of that. If you go on strike or you've taken time off to go and demonstrate against your employer because of one or two reasons, what it means is that work has gone down, you have lost income, people can be made to lose their jobs, through various other means. And so labor should find ways and means of sitting with the employer and going a bit deeper than they have gone now. And they have the capacity, they should be able to resolve it. Fortunately, we have the likes of Haruna there, and we have the likes of Kofi Asamoah and the rest there. They have the capacity, they should be able to do it. If they are unable to do it, they should go to the National Labour Commission or look for a facilitator to assist them to resolve it. It can be done.
So what do you anticipate would happen?
If I'm...
Would we see... Honestly, because, I think one of the things that Labour is not excited about is we were talking about the utility tariffs, and then you also bring, this petroleum issue. You should have waited for us to finish with the utilities. Things are very difficult for people because, the economy is not where we want it to be. But it looks like you want to starve us by hitting us from all angles. And that's why I ask, what do you anticipate is going to happen? Should government, for instance, say, okay, we understand the economy is very difficult now, so we're holding on to the petroleum levy. Let's deal with the utilities for now, and then after a while, we'll bring on the petroleum.
That is a possibility. Is that I can guarantee you, I sit up to 1 a.m., I'm sure most of you there, listening to various stations across the world to find out what is happening there. Nowhere is cool. Nowhere. From America to China today, nowhere is cool. Ghana is no exception. I know Nigeria is busily engaging with the IMF the same. So I think that what is important is to find out from the employer, why are you doing what you want to do? And this is a facilitated approach.
But shouldn't, Mr. Game, sorry to cut you, shouldn't the employer shouldn't they have done that before going ahead with the action? I mean, if communication was clearer and better, and there was a better understanding, we probably wouldn't be here. Why don't you engage them before you effect the action?
I appreciate that. And I think that as a follow-up of what we did in Ho and what we did in Senche and what we did in Takrady, this should have been a lot more easier by way of engaging labor far in advance in talking about these issues in diverse ways, generating various options. I think that except there is any special arrangement with parliamentary committee, I think my friend and the Minister for Employment, Haruna, and his team should find a way of sitting with labor today, tomorrow. They should be able to avert it because they have the capacity. Behind the scene, all of them can be talking to various other people to find out other brains as to how they can deal with it. I honestly must admit that nobody can do it all, but I think that there are people who have the capacity in this country to sit with them to be able to facilitate the resolution of this matter, regardless of how difficult it might appear in the eyes of people. Because there is no matter that cannot be resolved in this world. And so I want to plead with them. They should go back to the table and talk it over. There are various ways, and if it comes to the crunch and they cannot be able to resolve it on their own, to go to the National Labour Commission, where they can do hearing and determination of the matter, and the outcome is final and binding on all of them. They will have to go and abide by it. Now, concerning the issue of the tariff and then the petroleum levy, I think that we cannot have the two sides running concurrently, but the fact is that we need the money as a nation to be able to even pay the adjustments that we are talking about. If the gap is too wide, we will not be able to, and we should not be able to close our eyes over it, because the world is in dire need of these economic measures. And everywhere I listen to, they are taking these type of steps. And the petroleum prices itself worldwide coming down, almost now hitting 25 very soon. That is also a consequence for us to be able to withstand. And so when it's going down, it's affecting something else somewhere. So I think that we should all bear with one another. And I think the labor, I trust them to be able to sit with the employer and resolve this.
Finally, Mr. Game, it's an election year. This is the time to get things done, don't you think? I mean, if I want government to do something for me, this is the time.
I don't think so. The Labour have been engaged in some sort of these things for some time now. They did it last year. You know, a lot of strikes happened last year as well, even though we're not in election year. So I think this is just a storm to be weathered, and once it's over, it's over. I think the government also have the capacity to do a lot of things right. It's up to them, knowing where we are today, to be able to do what is appropriate. I think we'll have peace in the country.
Mr. Game, I thank you for your time. I really appreciate your thoughts on these matters. That's Mr. Austin Game. He's a labor consultant. We've been talking about Tewu and largely labor. They're going on demonstration, remember, on Wednesday. We have not been able to get through with Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. I tell you what, when we do, we'll bring their side to you as well. Until then, Tewu is on strike. They have a meeting later today, and then we'll see the way forward from there. But news in this morning also, President John Dramani Mahama has, in accordance with Article 71 of the 1992 Constitution and acting on the advice of the Council of State, appointed a 5-member presidential committee to determine the salaries of Article 71 office holders. The committee, chaired by Professor Dora Francisca Edu-Buando, has the following as members: Professor Kwame Ahoy, Dr. William Babuating, Mrs. Nokodua, and Mrs. Lydia Bauer. The committee, which was inaugurated by the President last Tuesday, will be assisted by trade unionist Napoleon Poe as consultant and Rudolph Kuzek as secretary. When we come back, we're going to be talking about a former AIDS ambassador. Even have AIDS at all? What do you make of this subject? What do you think about what we've been talking about? You can WhatsApp me on 0560 800,000. You're watching the AM show here on Joy News. Please do stay.